ਚੜ੍ਹਦੀ ਕਲਾ ਟਾਈਮ ਟੀਵੀ ਦੇਖ ਰਹੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਕਾਂ ਦਾ ਵੱਲ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਨਿਊਜ਼ 'ਚ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਹੈ। ਮੈਂ ਹਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਰਿਦਮ। ਖਬਰਾਂ ਦੀ ਸ਼ੁਰੂਆਤ ਕਰਨ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਨਜ਼ਰ ਮਾਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕੁਝ ਖਾਸ ਹੈਡਲਾਈਨਸ ਤੇ। चीन च बैंकों लिए मुसीबत बनया कैश, जनता कर्ज लैन तो कर रही है इनकार। स्कूल ते हस्पताल तो बाद हुण तीजी वारदात अमरीका च चर्च नेड़े हुई गोलीबारी, हमलावर समेत 3 दी मौत। ओंटारियो प्रोविंशियल चोणां 2022 च भारी बहुमत नाल जिते डग फोर्ड, एनडीपी ते लिबरल नेतावां ने दिता अस्तीफा। ਤੇ ਹੁਣ ਖਬਰਾਂ ਵਿਸਥਾਰ ਨਾਲ। ਚੀਨ 'ਚ ਬੈਂਕਾਂ ਲਈ ਕੈਸ਼ ਦੀ ਸਮੱਸਿਆ ਚਿੰਤਾ ਬਣ ਗਈ ਹੈ। ਚੀਨ ਦੇ ਬੈਂਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਕੋਲ ਇੰਨਾ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਕੈਸ਼ ਇਕੱਠਾ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਕੰਪਨੀਆਂ ਤੇ ਆਮ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਲੋਨ ਲੈਣ ਦੇ ਤਰਲੇ ਪਾਉਣ ਨੂੰ ਮਜਬੂਰ ਹੋ ਗਏ ਨੇ। ਦਰਅਸਲ ਕਰੋਨਾ ਤੇ ਤਾਲਾਬੰਦੀ ਦੇ ਚੱਲਦਿਆਂ ਕੰਪਨੀਆਂ ਤੇ ਪਰਿਵਾਰਾਂ ਦਾ ਭਰੋਸਾ ਇੰਨਾ ਕਮਜ਼ੋਰ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਕਿ ਚੀਨ 'ਚ ਕੋਈ ਕਰਜ਼ ਲੈਣ ਨੂੰ ਤਿਆਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ। ਬੈਂਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਕੋਲ ਕੈਸ਼ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਤੇ ਇਹ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਮੁਸੀਬਤ ਬਣ ਚੁੱਕਾ ਹੈ। अप्रैल च लोन ग्रोथ 5 साल के हेठले पद्धर ते पहुंच गई है ते कई इंडिकेटर्स तो संकेत मिल रहे हैं कि मई च भी हालात च सुधार की उम्मीद नहीं है। अमरीका च योवा सूबे के अमेस च स्थित कार्नरस्टोन चर्च नेड़े गोलीबारी च 3 लोगों की मौत हो गई। मरन वालियां च 2 औरतां ते हमलावर शामिल ने। मीडिया तो मिली जानकारी अनुसार स्टोरी काउंटी के शेरिफ निकोलस लेनी के हवाले तो कहा गया है कि शक्की हमलावर भी गोलीबारी च मारिया गया है। उधर न्यूजीलैंड के सब तो वड्डे शहर ऑकलैंड च एक अदालत सामने गोलीबारी की घटना वापरी है। इस गोलीबारी च घट्टो-घट्ट 3 लोग जख्मी हो गए ने। न्यूजीलैंड के मीडिया ने शुक्रवार को यह जानकारी दी। मीडिया तो मिली जानकारी अनुसार गोलीबारी पापाकुरा इलाके विच हुई। जख्मियां विचों एक दी हालत गंभीर बनी हुई है। पाकिस्तान च एक बार फिर पेट्रोल दी कीमतां विच वाधा होया है। पाकिस्तान के वित्त मंत्री मिफ्ताह इस्माइल ने बीते दिनी पेट्रोल दी कीमतां च 30 रुपए के वाधे का ऐलान किया। दस दे कि एक हफ्ते विच दूजी बार कीमतां विच वाधा किया गया। इस तो बाद पाकिस्तान च पेट्रोल की कीमत 209.86 रुपए प्रति लीटर हो गई है। इस दे नाल ही डीजल की कीमत 204.15 रुपए प्रति लीटर हो गई है। इस तो पहला भी बीते हफ्ते पेट्रोल दी कीमतां च 30 रुपए का वाधा किया गया सी। कनेडा डग फोर्ड ਨੂੰ प्रोग्रेसिव कंजरवेटिवां ਲਈ बहुमत ਨਾਲ 2022 ओंटारियो ਚੋਣਾਂ 'ਚ ਜੇਤੂ ਘੋਸ਼ਿਤ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ। मीडिया जानकारी अनुसार स्टीफन डेल डूका की लिबरल पार्टी के मुकाबले एनडीपी पार्टी ਨੂੰ अधिकारित विरोधी ऐलान किया गया। ਜਦੋਂ लीडरशिप का फैसला किया जाता है तो ओंटारियो के लोग ये देख रहे हैं कि पार्टी के नेता दी वॉन वुडब्रिज राइडिंग समेत पार्टी को मौजूदा 7 सीटां विचों लिबरल कितनियां सीटां हासिल कर सकते हैं। कैनेडियन बोर्ड कास्टिंग कारपोरेशन का अनुमान है कि प्रोग्रेसिव कंजरवेटिव सूबाई विधान सभा दी 124 सीटां विचों घट्टो-घट्ट 83 सीटां जितन दे राह ते सन ते पिछली विधान सभा विच पार्टी कोल 67 सीटां सन। कनेडा प्रधानमंत्री जस्टिन ट्रूडो ने ब्रिटिश कोलंबिया नूं संघी नियंत्रित ड्रग्स एंड सबसटेंस एक्ट के तहत निजी वरतों लई कुछ गैर कानूनी नशीले पदार्थां की थोड़ी मात्रा के कब्जे नूं अपराधिक बनाने लई 3 सालां दी छूट दिते जाण तो बाद राष्ट्रीय ड्रग अपराधीकरण की संभावना बारे संसद हिल ते पत्रकारां नाल गलबात कीती। ट्रूडो वल्लों कोविड यात्रा पाबंदियां हटाउण दीआं कालां ते भी चर्चा की गई। फैडरल सरकार ने हाल ही विच कनेडा च दाखल होने वाले यात्रियों लई मौजूदा सरहदी उपावां नूं घट्टो-घट्ट 30 जून तक वधा दिता है।
I think every step of the way we need to make sure that we're following science and data, and that's exactly what we're doing. There's been long calls to look at decriminalization, but you don't want to do it without the system and the supports in place, and that's what we were really focused on with BC, to make sure that it wasn't just flipping a switch, that it was actually building up capacity and making sure that there are many different ways to support people, whether it's safe supply, whether it's measures that surround this decriminalization. That's why working with a jurisdiction that wanted to do it was priority for us. And of course we've already heard cities like Toronto and Edmonton interested in taking this on as well. We're going to work with them and try to make sure every step of the way that as and if we move forward, it is not just a single solution, that it is a full wraparound approach like we're trying. Well, the reality is, as much as people would like to pretend we're not, we're still in a pandemic. There are Canadians who die every single day because of COVID-19 in our hospitals. We are still at risk. We're particularly at risk as fall approaches of new variants. We need to make sure we're doing everything we can to keep Canadians safe. And I know people are eager to get back to things we love. But what will also further damage our tourism industry is if we get another wave, if we get more serious impacts from COVID. That's why every single time we have been anchored in science. We're reflecting on what the best way to do to make sure that we can get back to the things we love as quickly as possible without putting ourselves at risk for further health crises, for further economic shutdowns, for further hardship that COVID.
एनडीपी आगू जगमीत सिंह ਅਤੇ ਗੌਰ ਜੌਨਸ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਬੀਤੇ ਦਿਨੀ ਪਾਰਲੀਮੈਂਟ ਹਿਲ ਤੇ ਇੱਕ ਨਿਊਜ਼ ਕਾਨਫਰੰਸ ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਰਾਸ਼ਟਰੀ ਡਰੱਗ ਅਪਰਾਧੀਕਰਨ ਬਿੱਲ ਤੇ ਚਰਚਾ ਕੀਤੀ। ਫੈਡਰਲ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਬ੍ਰਿਟਿਸ਼ ਕੋਲੰਬੀਆ ਨੂੰ ਓਪੀਓਇਡ ਸੰਕਟ ਨਾਲ ਨਜਿੱਠਣ ਲਈ ਕੁਝ ਦਵਾਈਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਅਪਰਾਧਕ ਬਣਾਉਣ ਲਈ ਛੋਟ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਗਈ ਹੈ।
Since 2016, 27,000 Canadians have lost their life because of a toxic supply, because of an overdose. And those are lives that have been taken from us and lives that we could have saved. Today, I want to talk about our bill being put forward or to a vote, Gord's bill, which calls for three really clear things. We want to see a health-based approach instead of a criminal-based approach to people dealing with substance abuse issues. And so the first thing is we want to decriminalize the approach. It should not be that folks that are dealing with these struggles are faced with a criminal approach. Secondly, we want to make sure that we have a national strategy around safe supply. We know that we need a safe supply to respond to this serious crisis that we're up against. And finally, we also want to see expungement to help people who are struggling with the stigma and to erase some of that stigma. Really, what we're calling for is a evidence-based, health-based approach to save lives. And it is unimaginable to me that a government, that the Liberal government, can see the evidence that the current approach is not working and refuse to support our health-based approach. Particularly when the Liberal government has just approved an exemption for BC. What does that say about the rest of Canada? What does that say to the thousands of families who buried their children because they were lost to a toxic supply or to an overdose situation? What does it say to the rest of Canadians that their lives don't matter? It's shameful, frankly, to not take a national approach to a national crisis. The Prime Minister has to show leadership here. We can save lives today. The bill that we're presenting will save lives, will mean a significant difference in this fight against the toxic supply, the overdose crisis, and the opioid crisis that is gripping our country. We are at a precipice today. We can make a decision to save lives for the future, or the Liberal government can continue to choose the status quo, the same approach, which will have the same result. People will lose their lives needlessly. So we again are calling out for justice, principles, and an approach to save lives, which is to implement the exact same exemption the government just did yesterday across the country. Support our bill that is fully backed by evidence. Health experts agree. This will save lives. This is the better approach. If we want to make sure that we don't lose another 27,000 or more Canadians, those lives will not be lost if we take a different approach. And that's what we're calling for today. But they can't do it in other provinces. Decriminalization is the simplest thing. It's a criminal matter, criminal code matter, which is absolutely federal. There's no justification at all. In fact, it's more complicated to have different laws in different provinces. How confusing is that? In this case, there is no justification for the patchwork approach where in one province, people will be treated with a healthcare approach in BC. But if you happen to live in another province, you could be criminalized. There is absolutely no justification.
ओटावा च एक न्यूज़ कॉन्फ्रेंस च कनेडियन ट्रैवल एंड टूरिज्म गोलमेज ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰਤੀਨਿਧੀਆਂ ਦੇ ਫੈਡਰਲ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਨੂੰ 15 ਜੂਨ ਤੱਕ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਬਾਰਡਰ ਕ੍ਰਾਸਿੰਗਾਂ ਤੇ ਕੋਵਿਡ ਸਰਹੱਦੀ ਉਪਾਵਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਖਤਮ ਕਰਨ ਦੀ ਮੰਗ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ। ਫੈਡਰਲ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਨੇ ਹਾਲ ਹੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਦਾਖਲ ਹੋਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਯਾਤਰੀਆਂ ਲਈ ਮੌਜੂਦਾ ਸਰਹੱਦੀ ਉਪਾਵਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਘੱਟੋ-ਘੱਟ 30 ਜੂਨ ਤੱਕ ਵਧਾ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਹੈ। ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨ 에ਅਰਪੋਰਟਸ ਜ਼ਮੀਨੀ ਬਾਰਡਰਸ ਉੱਤੇ ਅਜੇ ਵੀ ਕਈ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੀ ਮਹਾਮਾਰੀ ਸੰਬੰਧੀ ਪਾਬੰਦੀਆਂ ਜਾਰੀ ਨੇ।
Canada's hub airports have consistently been ranked among the best in the world for customer satisfaction and efficiency, including throughout the pandemic. Our airports know how to serve passengers to the highest levels, but we need government to act urgently to remove the remaining public health requirements at the border by June 15th in order to alleviate the pressures currently facing travellers at Canada's airports. We are pleased that the federal government has worked with our federal agencies to increase the number of CATSA and CBSA screening officers and also to eliminate random testing for transiting passengers. These were encouraging steps forward coming out of the working groups composed of senior industry and government representatives. But there is still more work to do, and it's urgent. The summer travel season is upon us, and international traffic at our arrivals at our airports is projected to increase by 50% at hub airports this summer. We need to move quickly to resolve issues and smooth out the travel experience on arrival into our country. We are urging the federal government to take 3 concrete actions in the short term to immediately alleviate pressure on the system. They include removing on-site mandatory random testing from Canada's airports, removing Public Health Agency of Canada's duplicate health check questions at government custom checkpoints at the international border, and removing vaccination mandates for CATSA and CBSA workers. There is a lot of pent-up demand for travel. We are seeing it. In May, our hub airports were seeing 70% of pre-pandemic passenger traffic levels. Canada's 4 hub airports are currently processing on average of 56,000 international passengers a day, and that's forecasted to grow by 80,000 a day this summer. It is challenging to manage that level of traffic with leftover legacy public health protocols still in place at our international borders. It would normally take a customs agent about 30 seconds to process a passenger at their desk, and now it is taking 2 to 4 times that because of these public health protocols. Normal travel levels cannot coexist with current public health protocols in place within our airport facilities. We need to do all we can to facilitate smooth travel in our country, and that requires the removal of these public health restrictions.
I've continued to invest heavily in the safe restart of travel and tourism in order to drive our national recovery in every region of the country. While the road to recovery has not been easy, we know it can and will improve, and we are seeing progress already. While the numbers are still short of pre-COVID times, more people are traveling now compared to since the onset of the pandemic in 2020. Canadians are eager to return to travel, as are international visitors looking to come to Canada for business or to discover our beautiful nation, and this is a good sign. But part of welcoming travelers back is ensuring that their experience is predictable, timely, and enjoyable, with clear service standards and performance metrics similar to other nations.
BC ਵਿੱਚ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਪਬਲਿਕ ਸੇਫਟੀ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਮਾਰਕੋ ਮੈਡੀਸਿਨੋ ਨੇ ਬੰਦੂਕ ਹਿੰਸਾ, ਸੰਗਠਿਤ ਅਪਰਾਧ ਅਤੇ ਘਰੇਲੂ ਹਿੰਸਾ ਤੇ ਨਵੇਂ ਪ੍ਰਸਤਾਵਿਤ ਹਥਿਆਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਕਾਨੂੰਨ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰਭਾਵਾਂ ਬਾਰੇ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕੀਤੀ। ਬਿੱਲ C-21 ਵਿੱਚ ਅਪਰਾਧ ਦੀ ਰੋਕਥਾਮ ਤੇ ਭਾਈਚਾਰਕ ਸੁਰੱਖਿਆ ਲਈ ਸੰਘੀ ਸਹਾਇਤਾ ਦੇ ਹਿੱਸੇ ਵਜੋਂ 10 ਤੋਂ 14 ਸਾਲ ਤੱਕ ਦੀ ਸਜ਼ਾ ਵਧਾਉਣ, ਤਾਰ ਟੇਪਿੰਗ ਦੀਆਂ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਜਾਂਚ ਸ਼ਕਤੀਆਂ ਤੇ ਜ਼ਮੀਨ ਤੇ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਲਈ ਫੰਡਿੰਗ ਟੂਲ ਵਧਾਉਣ ਵਰਗੇ ਉਪਾਅ ਸ਼ਾਮਿਲ ਹੋਣਗੇ।
On Monday, our government introduced Canada's most significant action on gun violence in a generation. Bill C-21 represents a milestone amidst a long and difficult battle, which takes place on our streets every single day. It's a battle that has claimed too many lives, leaving empty chairs at the dinner table and empty desks in the classroom. And as we talk about it, I want to take you a little bit back to February of this year, when a handgun, was found at an elementary school here in Surrey, Bothwell. Sadly, this wasn't the only time that parents here in Surrey and other parts of the Lower Mainland had cause to worry. Shanna Harris Morris, 22 years old, was shot and killed in her own home in Surrey last year. Jagveer Mali was just 18 when he was shot dead at an intersection in Abbotsford in 2018. Paul Bennett was a nurse, a hockey coach, and a dad, and he was killed in his own front yard in Surrey the same year. Wilfred Wong, only 15 years old, was sitting in the back seat of his parents' car in East Vancouver when he was caught in the crossfire. There's nothing that we can do to bring back any of them, or Chris, who we lost 15 years ago, and whose birthday it was just yesterday. But with Bill C-21, we can do everything in our power to prevent the next tragedy. It represents a comprehensive suite of measures that will have a significant impact. First, we are introducing a national freeze on handguns. What this means is that on a go-forward, no one will be able to buy, sell, transfer, or import handguns. In 2020, handguns were used in 3/4 of violent crimes and 60% of homicides. For the last decade, we've seen approximately 55,000 new handgun registrations enter into the total universe of that market each year, representing about a 75% increase in that market over the same period. We're putting an end to that trend, and we're not waiting for this bill to pass to take action. We've also tabled through our regulations amendments to the Firearms Act regulations so that we can bring the effect of the freeze into action as quickly as Parliament can and is willing to do so. And that's why I'm urging all members of Parliament and indeed all parliamentarians to read this bill, to debate this bill, and to pass this bill as quickly as possible. Second, Bill C-21 tackles organized crime head-on. If you're in the business of trafficking guns at our borders, you'll face stiffer sentences under the criminal code. If you alter a magazine or cartridge of a gun to exceed its lawful capacity, you'll face new criminal charges. And if you're involved in organized crime, you're going to face new police authorities like wiretapping laws specifically related to gun offenses under the code to stop gun crime from occurring before it can.
ਅਲਬਰਟਾ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰੀਮੀਅਰ ਜੇਸਨ ਕੈਨੀ ਨੇ ਐਡਮਿੰਟਨ ਵਿਖੇ ਇੱਕ ਨਿਊਜ਼ ਕਾਨਫਰੰਸ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਇੱਕ ਨਵੀਂ ਚਾਰਟਰਡ ਸਰਜੀਕਲ ਸਹੂਲਤ 2023 ਚ ਖੁੱਲਣ ਲਈ ਤੈਅ ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ ਹੈ। ਫਸਟ ਨੇਸ਼ਨ ਜਨਤਕ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਫੰਡ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਤ ਕਰਨ ਤੇ ਹੋਰ ਸੰਯੁਕਤ ਪ੍ਰਕਿਰਿਆਵਾਂ ਦੀ ਪੇਸ਼ਕਸ਼ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ ਸੂਬੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ। ਪ੍ਰੀਮੀਅਰ ਕੈਨੀ ਨਾਲ ਸਿਹਤ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਜੇਸਨ ਕੌਂਪਿੰਗ ਵੀ ਸ਼ਾਮਿਲ ਹੋਏ।
Over a year to see, but really 3 years. This is the culmination of a vision about how we can improve healthcare for Albertans, get people the care they need more quickly, do it more efficiently, while also supporting the ambitious economic goals for development and social development here on the Enoch First Nation and Indigenous communities across Alberta. I'm so happy to be joined by Alberta's fantastic Minister for Indigenous Relations, Honourable Rick Wilson, and our Minister of Health, Honourable Jason Copping, and the hard-working, intrepid MLA for this area of Drayton Valley, Devon, Mark Smith. And thank you again to everybody from Enoch and other visitors who are joining us for this exciting announcement here today. Today we mark a tremendous step forward in the province's effort to reduce surgical wait times and get Albertans the care they need when they need it. In the last election, I committed that our government would launch a surgical wait times initiative in our platform that would use an innovative reform by doubling the number of surgeries that we contract out to be performed in chartered surgical facilities, which are done at lower cost than in the government hospitals, meaning we can do more surgeries, meaning we can reduce the surgical wait time. But on top of that, our government has invested $900 million in dedicated funds to perform more surgeries. We inherited in 2019 some of the longest surgical wait times in Canada. And of course, the COVID crisis caused here and across Canada and around the world the postponement of many surgeries. The good news is but we still need to make major gains to reduce the pre-COVID surgical backlog. Too many Albertans are waiting for too long to get surgery, often in pain while their medical situation deteriorates. And if we look back to the beginning of the opioid addiction crisis in North America, much of it began with people waiting for surgery, taking sometimes addictive painkillers, and that too has created a public health crisis with respect to opioid addictions. That's why it is urgent that we put patients, not politics and not ideology, not special interests, but patients at the heart of the healthcare system and get them the care that they need using innovative reforms like Alberta's surgical initiative. We're already seeing some great success with this initiative, which has reduced cataract wait times in Alberta by 40%. That was the first major procedure that we incorporated into the Alberta Surgical Initiative, and it's showing great progress. So it really is great news that today we're building on that success. I am pleased to announce that Enoch Cree Nation, in partnership with Surgical Centres Incorporated, is the preferred proponent to offer surgeries here in the Edmonton region. While the contract is still being finalized, we anticipate that this agreement will offer an additional 3,000 much-needed orthopedic surgeries here in the Edmonton region. Traditionally, chartered surgical facilities haven't performed hip and knee replacements since many patients need to stay overnight after those surgeries. But I can say that Enoch Cree Nation and Surgical Centres Incorporated have stepped forward with a very strong proposal to accommodate more complex surgeries while following the standards of care that we expect in Alberta.
बैंक ऑफ कनेडा ਵੱਲੋਂ ਆਪਣੀਆਂ ਵਿਆਜ ਦਰਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰ ਫਿਰ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਬੇਸਿਸ ਅੰਕਾਂ ਦਾ ਵਾਧਾ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ। ਹੁਣੇ ਵਿਆਜ ਦਰ 1.5% ਤੱਕ ਪਹੁੰਚ ਗਈ ਹੈ। ਇਹਨਾਂ ਵਿਆਜ ਦਰਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਸ ਲਈ ਵਾਧਾ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਬੈਂਕ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਮੰਨਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਨੇੜੇ ਦੇ ਭਵਿੱਖ ਵਿੱਚ ਮਹਿੰਗਾਈ ਦੀ ਰਫ਼ਤਾਰ ਮੱਠੀ ਹੋਣ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਹੋਰ ਵਧੇਗੀ। ਬੈਂਕ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਮਹਿੰਗਾਈ ਨੂੰ ਠੱਲ ਪਾਉਣ ਲਈ ਉਹ ਵਿਆਜ ਦਰਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਵਾਧਾ ਕਰਦਾ ਰਹੇਗਾ। ਬੈਂਕ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਕਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਜੇ ਲੋੜ ਪਈ ਤਾਂ ਉਹ ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਵੀ ਸਖਤ ਕਾਰਵਾਈ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ ਤਿਆਰ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਸਮੇਂ ਕੰਜ਼ਿਊਮਰ ਪ੍ਰਾਈਵੇਟ ਇੰਡੀਕੇਟਰਸ 'ਚ 70% ਵਣਗੀਆਂ 'ਚ ਮਹਿੰਗਾਈ ਦੀ ਦਰ 3% ਤੋਂ ਉੱਪਰ ਹੈ। ਅਪ੍ਰੈਲ ਦੇ ਮਹੀਨੇ CPI 6.8% ਤੱਕ ਪਹੁੰਚ ਗਿਆ ਸੀ ਜੋ ਕਿ 31 ਸਾਲਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਸੀ। यूक्रेन ਵਿੱਚ ਜਾਰੀ ਜੰਗ ਕਾਰਨ એનર્ਜੀ ਤੇ ਖੇਤੀਬਾੜੀ ਨਾਲ ਜੁੜੀਆਂ ਵਸਤੂਆਂ ਉੱਤੇ ਦਬਾਅ ਵਧਿਆ ਹੈ। ਬੈਂਕ ਦਾ ਮੰਨਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਇਸ ਨਾਲ ਯੂਰੋਪੀਅਨ ਅਰਥਚਾਰੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਨਕਾਰਾਤਮਕ ਅਸਰ ਪੈਣ ਦੀ ਵਧੇਰੇ ਸੰਭਾਵਨਾ ਹੈ। ਫਿਲਹਾਲ ਵਰਲਡ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਨਿਊਜ਼ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੰਨਾ ਹੀ। ਹੋਰ ਤਾਜ਼ਾ ਖਬਰਾਂ ਲਈ ਵੇਖਦੇ ਰਹੋ ਚੜ੍ਹਦੀ ਕਲਾ ਟਾਈਮ TV। ਮੈਨੂੰ ਦਿਓ ਆਗਿਆ। ਧੰਨਵਾਦ।